Call the meeting to order at 5:33. Thank you to the members of the public who are joining us tonight and member of the media. Thank you to the City of Mandurah staff and to City of Mandurah councillors, and welcome to our council meeting for this evening. I'll declare the meeting open, and I'd like to advise the meeting that tonight we are recording the council meeting, and it's in accordance with the city's recording of council's meeting policy. By being present at the meeting this evening, members of the public consent to the city recording and subsequently publishing their voice on the city's website. I'd like to acknowledge that we're here this evening on the land of the Mandurah people and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I'd also like to acknowledge that we are missing Councillor Pond this evening, who's on the leave of absence. For the benefit of the members of the public, any decision that council makes tonight can be revoked in accordance with the Local Government Act. So please don't act on any decision that you see tonight until you've received notification from the city in writing. I'm going to open public question time now at 5:34, and just remind members of the public that wish to ask a question that questions to this meeting must comply with the City of Mandurah standing orders, and therefore no comments can be made that are knowingly incorrect, misleading, or that reflect adversely on any person here in this chamber or any other person. That being the case, we've got a question this evening that's been put forward with notice from Kay Moore in relation to tree pruning. Ms. Moore, are you here this evening? I'd like to invite you to the public participation table, and we do welcome your questions, and we really thank you for coming along tonight and being part of our meeting.
My name's Kay Moore. I live at 49 Luckhurst Drive in Mandurah. We have huge peppermint trees on the verge of our house, which is causing havoc to our house. Our gutters are full, our roof's gone mouldy, our house is full of leaves, but the council will not prune them. About 15 years ago, these trees were going to be removed, put water pipes down our driveway, down the street, but we asked council to save these trees because we didn't want to see the trees removed. Now we can't get them pruned. We had a branch fell on our power lines last week. We had to remove that because there's branches overhanging our power lines and on our side of our property, but the tree maintenance people say they're not allowed to remove them. So I'd like to know why that is, and just get an answer to why we can't have the trees pruned at a reasonable height, which I think is pretty fair, because if we had power lines coming down our street, they'd be pruned all the time. And the next question is that trees are removed all the time with new development. So big trees like ours are removed from places for developers to come in and develop things all the time. And no one's ever wanted to come and talk to us about this issue. Finally, after getting in touch with Councillor Kearns the other day, someone did come and talk to us, and he just said, well, he couldn't do anything about it. So we can't get up on a ladder every 3 or 4 weeks and clean our gutters through no fault of our own. So why can we not get these trees pruned to a reasonable height and kept under control?
Thank you very much for your questions, and thanks for putting them in advance. I'm going to get you an answer before you depart, because you may have a subsequent question, and I'm going to direct the question to the Director of Built and Natural Environment.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So I can confirm that the 2 peppermint trees on the verge adjacent to 49 Luckhurst Drive were pruned in February of this year. The works included removal of deadwood. Also, the tree crowns were thinned, and the power line clearance works were undertaken at that time. I have requested that the city's arborist inspects the site within the next few weeks to provide their advice on any further recommendations on the appropriate management of the subject trees. In response to question 2, I also confirm that approval is required for the removal of any street tree asset, and this is closely managed by the city. In this case, the trees are considered to be in good condition, have significant value, and should be retained. And the associated management work obviously needs to reflect that value. In response to question 3, I can also confirm that I will be in contact directly with Mrs. Moore later this week to discuss the matter further, and obviously complement the previous contact that city officers have made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Thanks to the Director, particularly for the reassurance that he will be in contact with Ms. Moore. I really appreciate that, and I'd ask the Director just to keep me up to date with the outcomes of those discussions. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank and acknowledge you for all of the work that you've done with Mandurah Netball and as a member of the community, very engaged. And so we really appreciate you and we want to take the opportunity to say that today. Thanks very much. The next question this evening, and thank you for providing it in advance, is from Joe Tomlinson, and it's in relation to weed spraying. So I'd like to invite you to the public participation table. Again, thanks very much for being here with us tonight, for taking your time to come to our meeting.
Good evening, everyone. So I did send an email out to all of you yesterday morning. So but I'll just briefly go over it with the questions in the context of the relevant points. So on Friday at Bardock Lake, which has been an Embrace the Space lake for the past 4 years, a contractor was stopped in their duties by a lake-dwelling resident because they were using a crop sprayer around the lake. And the person that stopped them is a retired biochemist. She said, "What are you using? What's in the crop sprayer?" It turned out it was something called spearhead, which is a toxic poison, highly poisonous to humans and animals. The safety disclosure statement for this product says that it should not be used near aquatic life. It is long-lasting harm to aquatic life. When you look at the safety disclosure statement, it conflicts with the brochure, which is for public consumption on the website. So what we want to know, the Friends of Bardock Lake, not just the Friends of Bardock Lake, but Mandurah Environment and Heritage Group, of which I'm on the committee, and back me on this, we want to know why. Why are you using such a toxic weed killer on a naturalized site? Why are you using it in breeding season when there's upwards of 50 ducklings of different types, coots, moorhens, all on nests and with little babies running around on the grassy slopes at the moment? Who ordered this? Because I thought I had great communication with our Embrace the Space person, Polly, and I don't understand why nobody's mentioned that this was going to happen. And also, do City of Mandurah know just how toxic and long-lasting this product is? And if so, if not, why don't you know? Why are you using this? We're wondering if someone has gone in and just read the brochure, because I remember something being used last May when the previous Embrace the Space person was incumbent. And I remember them telling me about this weed killer, and it reads just like the brochure, what they said to me. But when you actually click on the safety disclosure, it's different.
I've sort of gone beyond the scope of question time to allow you to provide some context, because I think it is helpful. But I'm going to now refer the questions to the Director of Built and Natural Environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the Mayor. Thank you for the question. I would ask that I take the question on notice so that I can investigate the matter and provide a comprehensive response.
Yeah, so basically what that, in addition to that being included within the agenda at the next council meeting in the minutes with a full answer to each of the questions that you've asked, there'll also be a response provided to you. You've provided your contact details. We'll provide that response to you so that you're absolutely aware of the answers to the questions. I would invite you, particularly, and I thank you for your involvement in Embrace the Space. It's an initiative we're really proud of. I would invite you, in addition to the formal questions, to engage with the director, and he may appoint a relevant staff member to engage with you, but to have some dialogue around just ensuring that the communication and that any matters like this in the future are addressed. So we'll provide you with formal answers, but in addition to that, I always find the best way to approach this is to ensure that that open dialogue is there, and the director will take carriage of that. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask to the meeting? There be none, I'll close question at 5:42. And thank you to those once again who have asked a question. We'll now move to public statement time. And we've got one public statement this evening from Alison Dixon in relation to street verge tree removals of canopy and under pruning. Ms. Dixon, thank you for being here tonight. We'll invite you to the public statement table and invite your statement to the council.
2 minutes I have,
You
isn't
do.
it? Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors and directors. This is concerning 3 peppermint trees on the verge of number 7 Matthew Street. I live at number 5 Matthew Street with an average age of 40 years plus, and they were planted by the original owners of the property, Min and Arthur Bradley. They were the first residents in Matthew Street, building their home in 1960. Arthur passed away in 1980. Min is now 96 and she lives in an aged care facility. The new owners at number 7 have contacted the city on this matter and are asking why the trees have been cut this way. These 3 peppermint trees have provided shade, fauna habitat, fauna forage and protection for residents and fauna from strong prevailing winds for many years. They also provide a beautiful display of flowers during late autumn. The trees are under a power cable called an ABC cable, a single, fully insulated cable. In front of you, there are pictures, 10 by 8 pictures of what a V-cut looks like. So the V-cut is all that is required under an AB cable. That is all that is required. So it's required so it doesn't touch a fully insulated cable. So, and that is as per Western Power standards. So to remove all the canopy and under prune from these three trees is 1, not cost effective, reduces shade, increases the ambient temperature, and reduces beauty into ugliness. So well done. So the sense that why is this cutting method applied to trees? Why? It just defies logic. It's not consistent with other verge trees in my neighbourhood. Under pruning applied to verge trees on a water-wise verge doesn't make any sense at all. So the machine that applies this methodology of cutting is called a squirrel. Since when does a squirrel come onto private property and cut trees? Everything should be applied from the road. They do not need to come onto private property to do it. There's just no rhyme or reason to that. If I was applying tree management, I would be getting my EWP in there on my property to do it. So having a squirrel to come on private property to do a verge tree doesn't make any sense at all. So as I say, all cutting is applied from the road. Why does a machine require access to private property? That doesn't make any sense. So that's really all I have to say, because this doesn't make any sense to literally pollard prune a tree, or several trees in this situation. And Matthew, you have to come some logic here, because this doesn't make any sense.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Appreciate your public statement. I don't typically do this, but given the nature of the question, given the nature of the statement, and given that you have travelled here this evening representing members of the community, I am going to ask for a short response from the director for your information. But I've also asked the director in advance of tonight's meeting to reach out to you personally with an explanation to the director of Built and Natural Environment.
Through the Mayor, thank you for redirecting. So certainly I can confirm that the 3 peppermint trees on the verge adjacent to 7 Matthew Street have been over-pruned as part of the recent electric power line clearance works. However, the trees are expected to fully recover and will be supported through the city's street tree watering and fertilising program over the summer period to ensure that's the case. With respect to the questions around encroachment on private property,
I think that can be addressed through direct dialogue.
Terrific, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you to the director, and thanks, Ms. Dixon, for your public statement this evening. Councillors, we'll come now to leave of absence requests. There is one that I have received from Councillor Zolani for the period of the 4th of the 2nd until the 20th of the 2nd, 2025, which feels like a long way away, but it's not. Can I ask for a mover and a second that be accepted? Moved Councillor Zolani. No, actually, moved Councillor Shoemaker, seconded Councillor Smith. Is there anyone opposed to that? That is carried. Thank you, Councillor Are there any other leave of absence requests that anyone has to the meeting tonight? There be none. Move to deputations, as there are no petitions or presentations. We have one deputation this evening from former City of Mandurah Councillor Gary Brown, and Mr. Brown is here to speak about the site investigation for, you'll be surprised to hear, potential central men's shed, and he's speaking in support of the opposite recommendation. Mr. Brown, please, we welcome you to the deputation table to make your deputation, and you are familiar with the rules, and so therefore I won't read them out.
I feel like I've sat on this side nearly as often as I've sat on that side, so hopefully that doesn't have to continue. Good evening, councillors and staff. We are here in support of item 1 as members of Men's Sheds. We've been working with council since July 2021 and have looked at many options, and this is by far the best. We look forward to working with other groups, as I'm sure we can all benefit from this. Men's Sheds as an organisation have a wide range of activities within their different sheds, from beekeeping, pottery, music, car restoration, metalwork, woodwork, and many other interests. So I'm sure any other groups that move in there, I'm sure we will all enjoy the local location. As confirmation of our 2 sheds amalgamating, we have always said, once we have a new shed, we will finalise this. In the meantime, we will operate as we are, with a joint committee to work with council. We look forward to working with council as we have many willing workers, and our insurance will cover us as cheap labour. Thank you. I look forward to your positive response. Thank you.
Gary, to you and the other members of the Men's Shed present, can I thank you for your persistence in working with the city? I know that all parties have found at times it a difficult journey, but at all times the outcome of ensuring that this is an area that's met in the city has been at top of everyone's priority list, and so I thank you for that. I agree with you that this is a wonderful outcome, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with you on achieving it. Councillors, we're going to move now to confirmation of minutes. The last meeting was the 24th of September. Is there a mover and a seconder that those minutes be confirmed as accurate? Thank you. Moved Councillor Kearns, seconded Councillor Zolani. Is there anyone opposed to that? That is carried. Move now to we'll move now to announcements. Councillors, before inviting those councillors who are going to share a little bit about the events that they've attended over the course of the month, it's my absolute privilege to introduce you to, I think, a very special person in our community who is the local legend for our October council meeting, and that is Sue Edge. Sue, as many of you know, was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2010 and had a significant impact on her life. A long-term teacher in the area, well regarded and highly respected as a local educator, but a life-changing diagnosis. No one that knows Sue was surprised by the fact that following that diagnosis, she has gone on to do amazing things in the setting up a monthly Parkinson's support group and arranging for the group to participate in singing and dancing and community participation, a regular boxing program for exercise, running a weekly art class called the Unsteady Hand Mob, of which I have a laptop case that I'm always very proud to carry around with me, and the bobblehead nana creations, which is fantastic. Sue's become an artist, producing bags, coasters, clothing, laptop pouches, as I said, and a myriad of other items bearing her beautiful design, and a friend of hers will hold that up for us in a moment. Sue has persistently fundraised to support a number of organisations, particularly those that are supporting people with Parkinson's. I have to say, whenever I talk to Sue, whenever I read of Sue, whenever she pops into my head, which is often, I just think that Sue is the epitome of community resilience, of dedication and passion. And I'm just so grateful to her for the work that she's done in this place, notwithstanding the challenges that she navigates. So you're just a hero, and you're our local legend for this month, and it's just an unbelievable privilege for us to be able to recognise you. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Reese. I'm really overwhelmed. Sorry. When people say I'm an inspiration, sometimes it's a big challenge. Sometimes I just want to curl up in a little ball and go and hide somewhere. But when I was diagnosed, I thought my world had ended because I didn't know anyone with Parkinson's and I was only 50. And I didn't, the only person I knew was really old and she was shaking, couldn't have a cup of tea without spilling it on herself. And I was really scared. There's no information out there. So I thought, there must be a reason I've got it. So maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I want to help other people. So I just thought I've got to get on with it. I have no choice. Michael J. Fox said that he's got no choice whether or not he's got Parkinson's, but it's only that non-choice, there are a million other choices he can do. So that's what I've done, chosen to fight the damn thing. He was asked if he regretted getting it. He said, no, he didn't. And I thought, how can you say that? But I think I've done so much, met so many wonderful people, and I've learnt to paint. I couldn't paint before. And I've just met so many wonderful, wonderful people, and people are being nice to me, which is nice. I sort of thought I'd move. I was always, you wouldn't believe it, I was a wallflower. I didn't like to be centre of attention. And I thought when I moved into my new Bell Swan place, I was going to slide in there and just be me and just a little quiet person. Didn't work. I can't. I just like to bring colour and joy into people's life. And if that's what I have to do, that's why I've got it. I've got to teach people, educate the public about it. So remember, broken crown, still colour. That's my motto. Life's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. So just have to make the best of it. Get up in the morning, because otherwise your alternative sucks if you don't get up. So I'd just like to thank you very much, Reese, and thank you all for being part of my journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. That beautiful speech. We're now going to hear from Councillor Smith, who attended with other councillors the Music Under the Bridge event.
Thank you, Sue. Just brought a tear to my eye as well. On Saturday, the 5th of October, I had the pleasure of attending the Music Under the Bridge at the Western Foreshore event site, which is a splendid culmination of the month-long Mandurah Arts Festival. It was truly delightful to witness the transformation of the space beneath the bridge, adorned by the mural by Mel and Tash of Melski McVie Art, and painted in collaboration with our local community members, myself and Councillor Wright included. This vibrant backdrop perfectly complemented the performance of the Perth Symphony Orchestra and our Symphony Under the Bridge. The orchestra transported us back to the big band era, delivering an exceptional repertoire of both classic and contemporary songs. Particularly memorable moment was when the orchestra was joined by local vocalists who had been rehearsing with the band for weeks, and they delivered a stunning performance that resonated with the audience. Additionally, there was a poignant seated dance performance, Whirl, presented by Lifespan Dance, which just added another layer of artistry to the event. As I looked around, I was just struck by a sea of smiling, relaxed faces, stretching as far as the eye could see. And I noticed my favourite vantage point, which I think I'll sneak to next year, is the fishing platform beneath the bridge. It just sounded phenomenal from there. So there was just this undeniable sense of excitement and vibrancy and real pride emanating from both the performers and from the audience. The vibe was just amazing. It was really safe, really happy, and it was just something for everyone. There was kids running around, still using the play equipment, playing basketball. There was seniors having picnics. Even my husband managed to get a weird dog-shaped crepe, so he was stoked with that. And just reflecting on my upbringing in rural Western Australia, access to arts and culture often felt prohibitively expensive and almost elitist. And I believe events like this are vital in fostering inclusivity and ensuring that music, arts and culture are accessible to all in our community. I also spoke to the CEO of the Perth Symphony Orchestra last week, Catherine, who said that they've just all been raving about the event and are hoping for an invite back next year. And I just wanted to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Heloise and Jane and all of the team, the arts and community who worked tirelessly to bring this unique and extraordinary event to life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and I concur. The CEO of Perth Symphony Orchestra has contacted me also, and she said, we've run events everywhere, and this Mandurah event was just, one of the best things we've done, and I thought that was pretty cool. So thank you to those that were able to attend, and thanks to the staff for their work in that. Along with other councillors, Councillor Burns, you attended the Alcoa Peel Business Excellence Awards. Please tell us about it.
Thank you, Chair. It was a most excellent evening, the finalist announcement night, and congratulations to all the finalists moving forward to the 2024 Alcoa Peel Business Excellence Awards. I understand, Mr. Chair, there were 31 individual businesses named as finalists, and it was wonderful to see our businesses having such an enjoyable night. Fortunately, left before I saw them have too much of an enjoyable night, but it appears they were warming up quite well for it. It leads me to take the opportunity to promote the awards gala night, which is to be held on Saturday, the 16th of November at Lane Group Stadium. It's not just an awards night, it's a chance to connect local business leaders and celebrate our vibrant business community. I always love to hear the stories that lead to the successes of each of the businesses, and therefore I found the evening both moving and enjoyable in the past. I urge you to attend if you have the opportunity. I've been told there are only a handful of tickets left though, so thank you, Chair.
Get in fast. Thank you very much, Councillor. Before moving to the next one, CEO's just reminded me, I can never understand why people wouldn't want to, but Sue and friends, you're not required to stay in the meeting. You can feel free to leave at any time, but of course this is the place to be on a Tuesday night, and we wouldn't imagine you want to be anywhere else. In the spirit of that, Councillor Wright is now going to tell us about the Mandurah Boat Caravan Full Drive and Camping Show. Did you come home with anything, Councillor?
Through the mayor, no, I didn't.
Oh, right.
My wife knows like I'm a kid in a lolly shop in those scenarios and always after something new for the four-wheel drive. So it's a place to be, but she kept the wallet, unfortunately. And it's a magnificent event. It's a huge lifestyle event. We know how much Western Australians and Australians in general love the outdoor lifestyle. So to be able to go along and have a look, and met with Alan Rogers, who was overseeing the whole event. It was great to meet him and then take a walk through the show itself. I was amazed at how many people were there. You see a lot of parking around Mandurah, and I tell you what, it was absolutely chockers. I was thankful to get a space set aside for me, put it that way. But couldn't believe the crowd. It was huge. Like I said, you're walking along. I introduced myself to a few of the vendors there and got a feel for the caravanning lifestyle in particular. 60 million nights spent in caravans Australia last year. There were 50,000. These are the stats that really wowed me. 50,000 RVs into the country last year. 28,000 imported. 22,000 obviously built in Australia. And the comment that a number of people made to me, and I know we've been talking about Yalgorop National Park, but it was that access to a place that people can come to in Mandurah, in particular, if we're looking at overnight caravanning trips. So a number of people commented there. Great to get along, and what an event for the city is all I can say, because it was absolutely enjoyable and really appreciated it. Wife appreciated keeping my wallet, or else there would have been a new two-way or something.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sorry to hear that there wasn't a purchase made, but can I thank you for going to the event? I know that there have been councillors attending a lot of other events over the course of the month, and so I thank you for that. There are a couple of things that I'd like to conclude with. First of all, to our City of Mandurah staff, particularly to Robin Chasty, who was presented with the Gold Medallion at the Royal Life Saving Bravery Awards, and to Debbie Gillard, Ryan Feltham and Philip Davidson, who are also presented with gold stars. This was in relation to, of course, the life that was saved. Mr. Heinz Engelmeyer, who was unconscious in the pool, retrieved from the pool and resuscitated and brought back to life. The event was held in Perth, and I was able to attend with the acting CEO at the time. It was a humbling event, to say the least. And so, CEO, please pass on our deep gratitude as a council to all of the staff at the Aquatic Centre, those directly involved, and of course, those that have helped to create an environment where the training, the sophistication of the rostering, and all of the components of the market that make that place a place where someone can be retrieved from a pool and resuscitated. Most dire situation. It's worth me noting to you that Heinz was not able to attend the event because he was hiking in Austria just a short time after his major cardiac arrest. Councillors, to conclude with in my announcements this evening, it's a privilege for me to inform you that the City of Mandurah has won the Economic Development through Partnerships and Collaboration category of the Economic Development Australia Awards. This is a significant award program that recognises the very best of economic development initiatives around Australia, and the City of Mandurah, for their efforts, for our efforts in the Thomas Danbo's Giants of Mandurah project, has been recognised the winner of the award. The project, worth reminding us, in the first year, almost 500,000 people directly engaging in our city to attend the Giants, more than $81 million in spending back into the local economy, and local businesses still tell me that was the best thing that has happened in Mandurah for local business in a very long time. Competing in the awards up against us was Melbourne's Climate Network and the Sunshine Coast Testing Tech in Paradise Awards. We acknowledge our partners in delivering this program, particularly to those creative geniuses at Form, and of course our supporters at Visit Mandurah. This project continues to help define a new story for this city. We should be very proud of it. I'm very proud of our economic development team and the entire workforce, who will never quite understand how significantly they had to work to pull this project off. And so, CEO, I think it's a very proud moment for the administration. And this is always a bit weird, but it's my privilege to present back to you the National Economic Development Awards for Excellence. I think you should put this one on your shelf and be very proud. Now I'll take that back from you, and I'll invite you to inform us of the declarations of interest.
Thank you, Mayor. The Councillor Jess Smith has declared an interest of impartiality for the Planning and Community Consultation Committee report, proposed car park lot 521 Marina Quay, Erskine, due to being an acquaintance of the owners of Boundary Island Brewery. I have a impartiality interest in report 2, endorsement for community consultation, community infrastructure plan of impartiality interest, as I'm a board member of Mandurah Basketball Association and the Peel Regional Academy of Sports, where the use of facilities including ovals, tennis courts, netball courts, Halls Head Rec Centre, the Mart BMX track, sailing club, and the hockey turf are used. Councillor Ryan Burns, for the same report, interest of impartiality, as a past player, committee member, and current social connection to Halls Head Cricket Club, a key user of city facilities. Councillor Amber Kearns for the same report of impartiality, as she is a member of multiple boards and community groups, including Greenfields Primary School, John Tonkin College, Peel Community Kitchen, Allenby, West Oz Crisis Care, and working at Mandurah Primary School, and her husband is on the board of Mandurah Basketball Association. Councillor Daniel Wilkins, the same report of impartiality, as he is the City of Mandurah representative on the Manpack board. Councillor Jacob Cumberworth, a interest of impartiality for the finance report, as he is declaring a impartiality interest due to a friend renting an office at 10 Lively Place.
Thank you, CEO. Are there any other declarations that anyone would like to make? Councillor Rogers first, then Councillor Wright. Councillor Rogers.
Just in relation to agenda item 2, the community infrastructure plan, I was formerly the council's representative on the Mandurah Performing Arts Centre board.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Through you, Mayor, just again on item 2, infrastructure principal at Greenfields Primary School and also past member of Halls Head and Mandurah Surf Lifesaving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, whilst we continue with the meeting, Councillor Rogers, we don't want to gag him. He makes a wonderful contribution and therefore I'd like for his microphone to be fixed. Are there any other declarations? Can I remind those councillors who have made a declaration of financial or proximity interest of the need to leave the chamber, should, in the case of the item, those that are declaring proximity interests, I imagine you will be remaining, impartiality rather, that you'll be remaining in the chamber and considering the items on their merits. Councillors, we'll move now to questions from elected members. Thank you to Councillor Cumberworth, who provided a number of questions with notice to the meeting. Councillor, we can do this 2 ways. You can ask the question that's on the screen before us and someone can read the response, or we can take the questions that are on the screen as read and the response will be included in the meeting. Entirely up to you.
I'm happy to take them as read. Thank
you very much. So the questions will be included in the agenda in the minutes, as will the responses. And we've also received questions with notice from Councillor Burns in relation to the Canopus storage and display options. Councillor Burns, I'll extend to you the same option. Except I won't, because the answers haven't been provided. Invite you to ask the questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Chair. I've received several inquiries from interested local community members about the historical wooden boat, the Canopus. Can the city staff please advise council on the status of the historical wooden boat, the Canopus, particularly on the options being currently investigated regarding the storage and future display? Can you please list the options that were listed to councillors in a recent briefing session and comment on the specific status of each of those options? Is the city exploring state and federal government funding assistance? Has the city considered separate fundraising options, including partnerships with the private sector?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll direct the question to the Director of Place and Community.
Thank you for the question through the Mayor. As we know, the Canopus is a wooden sailing vessel built in 1912, which served as a communication vessel, cargo carrier to Fremantle and a tourist charter boat. The Canopus is included on the Australian Register of Historic Vessels. In 2013, Canopus was donated to Mandurah Museum by the boat's last owner, and at this time, Canopus was moved to a shed on a private residence where it has remained since then and has been partly restored by volunteers. The owners have recently advised the city that permission to use the shed to store Canopus has been withdrawn, and currently the city doesn't have a suitable space to store Canopus and has not made a commitment publicly to display the Canopus at any stage. So, in terms of the options that were recently listed, option 1 has commenced. This option referred to investigating whether WA museums would store and display Canopus at either the Maritime Museum or Boolarbartip. Representatives from WA museums visited the Canopus with city staff and museum volunteers at the beginning of October. It's anticipated that the WA Museum Board will formally consider its interest in Canopus soon, with an outcome by the end of December 2024. Option 2 has also commenced. This option referred to relocating Canopus temporarily to the Works Operations Centre, and space has been found for this purpose. It is a bit difficult because we don't have a purpose-built facility, so it would require the relocation of existing city equipment, but we do have space that could be allocated for a short time for that purpose. And then option 3, which has not yet commenced, is that if a permanent relocation of Canopus still can't be found after the Canopus has been at the Works Operations Centre, that we'll need to explore other options. In terms of exploring state or federal funding, government funding assistance, city officers are not currently exploring state or federal government funding assistance because a location has not been found to store and or display the canopus. Funding will form part of a detailed feasibility study which will outline the implications of the options available to council. And it's a similar answer for external fundraising options in that we're not currently working on that at this time.
Thank you to the Director, and thank you, Councillor Burns, for the questions. And I'd encourage the Director and ELT, if there are further developments in this space, perhaps referring to a council briefing session for further dialogue with elected members would be appropriate. Are there any other questions to the meeting? There be none. We'll move now into recommendations of committee. One committee met over the course of the month, the Planning and Community Consultation Committee. One item with a recommendation to full council, the proposed car park. Does anyone wish to withdraw this item, or is there a mover and a seconder that the committee's recommendation be adopted by council? Moved Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Rogers.
Nothing actually further from me. No.
Great, thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Is there anyone wishing to speak against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Move now to reports from the CEO. We will be hearing some presentations this evening, councillors, but not quite yet. The first item is the site investigation for potential, site investigation for potential central men's shed. Report number 1. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Zani, very quick, and Councillor Cumberworth, second. Councillor Shoemaker. Councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate our senior citizens, the backbone of Mandurah. Their dedication and hard work over the years have shaped this city into the wonderful place we now enjoy. They planted the seeds long ago, and today we are privileged to reap the benefits. It is now our turn to give back, to ensure they are looked after with care and respect. This is where initiatives like the Man Shed come in, offering a space that can make a real difference in their everyday lives. That is why I am proud to speak here today in full support of the officer's recommendations. These reports highlight the vital role that Man Sheds play, not just locally, but as part of a worldwide movement promoting physical, mental, emotional well-being in a welcoming, supportive environment. Man sheds are much more than just a place to work with your hands. They represent a space for man to find a renewed sense of purpose, pride, and connection with others. Whether it is through contributing to the community, staying physically active, or simply having a chat over a cuppa. These shares offer a lifeline for providing friendship and a sense of belonging without any pressure. I know firsthand how challenging it has been to reach this stage, and I want to commend the city for its detailed and thoughtful approach. Over the past 2 years, the city has worked closely with both the Mandurah and Peel Man Sheds, identifying potential sites and assessing the best options for a central man shed location. The collaboration and mutual support between both groups have been truly inspiring. Recent consultations held from August to October this year revealed that both man sheds are eager to work together towards a shared use facility, a space that will serve as a hub of community spirit and well-being. This is more than just a building. It is an investment in the health and happiness of our residents. So now I call on my fellow colleagues to unite behind the vision Let's support this report and move forward together toward a future where Mandurah seniors and all men have a place where they feel valued, supported, and connected. Thank you all.
Councillor Zolani, thank you. I'll be coming to the seconder in a moment, who is actually Councillor Cumberworth, not Councillor Schumacher. But before doing so, Councillor Burns has just advised me that he has an impartiality interest in relation to the item, and perfectly appropriate at any time that a councillor determines they have an interest to declare it. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Just listening intently to Councillor Zolani, I'm reminded that in previous years, as a candidate in a state election, I had an advocacy position in support of the Mandurah Men's Shed.
Thank you. We'll have the appropriate documents put before you, and I'll just remind you of your obligations to consider the item on its merits. Councillor Cumberworth.
When he declared last mayoral election, I have to campaign for Men's Shed, so I declare my impartial interest.
We'll bring you the appropriate.
Thank
it's a little bit different given that it's a state election, but we'll bring you the appropriate documents also. Councillor Cumberworth.
Utilising existing infrastructure within the city not only gives us a faster solution, but it's economically sensible, and I just think that the solution is on point, and I look forward to seeing the men's sheds doing what they do best. Thank you.
Councillor. Is there anyone wishing to speak against? Any questions? Being none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you to the mover and the seconder. Thank you to the officers for the report. Well done. Thank you to the members of the men's shed. No need to clap, but please hang around and enjoy the rest of the show. Yes. Given the number of items this evening, I can't understand why you want to go, Gary. Given the number of items this evening that we've got in relation to community infrastructure, it's not a surprise that there are a number of impartiality interests. There are a couple from staff, and therefore, before moving to the next item, I'll ask for the CEO to provide an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two declarations of impartiality interest for this next report, report 2 for the community infrastructure plan. First one from Mr. Dreco, as he is a vice president and junior president at the Halls Head Cricket Club, and they are a user and a priority user of Pillwood Reserve, and also the board member of the Metropolitan Junior Cricket. Who govern and
Mr. Dreco needs to work on his handwriting, but anyway, it's been declared. Thank you, CEO. And to the next one.
Next one is Mr. Craig Johnson, impartiality interest as he's a chairperson for Peel Regional Academy of Sport, board member at Coodinop College, and children that are members of a number of local sporting groups and past member of a number of local sporting clubs.
And thank you to Mr. Johnson, at least, for writing that in an eligible way that we could actually read. Are there any other interests? Being none, I will move the motion in relation to the community infrastructure plan endorsement. Is there a seconder? To the Deputy Mayor. City of Mandurah councillors, what a wonderful report this is. Thank you very much to the officers and all of the stakeholders that have been involved in shaping this. Over the course of the last year or so, there have been significant strategic documents come through this chamber. The City Centre Master Plan, the Integrated Parking Plan, the other strategic documents, the Integrated Transport Plan, and those other strategic documents that really are the foundations that shape what the city's built form will be into the future. One of the things that we know is if we were sitting here in 1997 in a community of just 34,000 people, we would be talking fundamentally different about the way that community infrastructure takes shape. And I acknowledge that one of the things that past councils over a long period of time, 20 years, have been remarkably successful at is attracting investment, particularly by state and federal governments, into the city to ensure that our community's got the very best infrastructure. When it comes to our sporting organisations, our arts organisations, you ask them, have a look around, try and find me a better community, a community that's got better community infrastructure than the city of Mandurah. It's something that over a long period of time we can be immensely proud of, and it really is a city that is second to none when it comes to the facilities that it provides to its community. We can all be very proud of the role that we've played in that. But what's most critical about community infrastructure going forward is that as we progress towards a population of 130,000 people over the next 10 to 15 years, we must be cognizant that whilst there is still growth to come, and the existing facilities that we've got require our care and our support. Now, of course, we're doing that through ensuring that our long-term financial plan adequately provides the funds required to maintain our existing facilities, but we're not done yet in terms of the requirement for new infrastructure. So this community infrastructure plan, I think, is a very exciting plan. It's been integrated across the organisation. It speaks to the priorities of the community, and it gives really clear direction to officers as to what those areas are that should be focused on next and what those areas of focus should be over the next decade. And so I thank the work that's been put into this. Council's been involved in shaping it. The community has been. The staff have done a remarkable job of it, particularly those who are present tonight. I acknowledge you for it. I thank you for it. I think this is something that we should be incredibly proud of. I think this will shape a legacy into the future. And I think as leaders and decision makers of the community tonight, if this is supported, we should have a little moment to pause and reflect. And on that basis, I'm proud to ask the Deputy Mayor to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. There really isn't a lot more that I can add after your very positive words. This is a fantastic document. The recommendation that we've got before us is to send it out for 28 days, a minimum of 28 days, to allow our community to add further comment and our key user groups, the relevant state government agencies. So I would encourage everyone to get out there to have a read of this really, really important document and look forward to it coming back to Council. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to ask a question? Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, through the chair. Just in relation to the minimum period of 28 days, that is the minimum required time for state government?
Thank you. I'll direct the question to the CEO.
Through you, Mayor, there is no statutory requirement to advertise the community infrastructure plan. It's something that we do as part of engagement, and we'll make sure that we receive the feedback and then present back to Council any submissions that we receive.
Thank you. Subsequent question, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, through the chair. Subsequent question or an amendment?
Yes.
Because this is such a major plan, a major report for everyone to get through, and the importance of this report and the public feedback from third parties, local clubs and the wider community, I'd like to move that the minimum advertising period is extended to 42 days to allow more time.
Thank you. I just want to check with the CEO in relation to any operational implications that may create.
I've just been, the officers have confirmed that that would be okay.
Is there anyone wishing to second that amendment? Councillor Wilkins, is there anyone wishing to speak against it? There be none, I'll put that. Those in favour? The amendment's carried. Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. The amendment was to amend from 28 days to 42 days. Councillor Shoemaker was the mover. Councillor Wilkins, the seconder. No, Councillor Wilkins. Thank you, and thank you, Lindsay. You do an amazing job, and I'm sorry for moving so fast. This amended motion is now the substantive motion. Is there anyone wishing to speak against it? Any questions, Councillor Wilkins?
Sorry, Mayor. Just in relation to just in relation to the communication, I know it states that there will be advertising for comment through a range of channels. Both examples provided are online channels. Will our community members who don't use computers or are unable to have access to computers be able to review this strategy and offer a comment?
Councillor, I understand from the CEO and the exec manager for communications that the monthly full-page newsletter of the City of Mandurah's activities will be commencing imminently, and I will make sure that included in that is an overview of the community infrastructure plan advertising period. Any other questions from anyone? There be none and no speakers against. I will put that motion. Those in favour? That motion is carried unanimously. Next item is the mosquito management annual report. And before asking for a mover and a seconder, I'd like to invite the relevant officer to come forward to the deputation table and present what is surely one of the most anticipated events of the year. No offence to the Manager of Finance. We also anticipate your presentation. However, because it's monthly, there is perhaps not the same level of excitement. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. You're the Chair. Thank you. Thank you, councillors and directors and city staff and members of the public for the opportunity to present once again on the mosquito management annual report for season 2023-24. I guess it's an abbreviated presentation tonight, so that hopefully will be pleasing to everyone. But I guess just getting into the nitty-gritty of season 23-24, after 3 years of consecutive El Nino seasons that presented very difficult seasons, we saw a shift in conditions in drivers. We actually swung to the opposite of La Nina, which is the El Nino, and we also had a positive IOD. And that changed.
I'm sorry, we have an acronym ban in the chamber. Sorry, you're going to need to speak.
Sorry, yes. ENSO is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. It's a climate driver that affects the global climate, and it affects us here in Australia. I guess the main characteristics of La Nina are rainfall and flooding on the east coast. However, over here we're affected by it as well. This year we saw a swing in that driver, and in some years when we see that swing, it can be quite a significant swing, and we can see very quiet seasons for mosquito management and mosquito breeding. However, season 23-24 was still quite busy, and we still, as you can see there, we still completed 17 aerial treatments. But I guess the big thing there is the tides, which I'll talk to you about on the next slide. But we did cover almost over 3,500 hectares through the season, and you can see there was a variation in the aerial treatments by month there in the graph. And we had a couple of quiet periods. Probably the most important period for there was for us during the January, February, March period, where we had a big decline in the number of treatments that we were required to complete. And typically at that time of year as well, we have the very aggressive mosquito that's abundant. So that took a lot of pressure off our residents because that mosquito was less prevalent, and obviously that was driven by the tides as well. Just moving to slide 2. So just detailing the tidal activity that that occurred during season 23 and 24, and I've just put on there as well the line graph there that illustrates the area that we treated through those seasons. There was a drop off in the number of tides in terms of the frequency of the tides, but also the heights of the tides as well, and particularly those tides that are above 0.9 metres, so indicated by the purple graph, that purple bar there, and also those tides above 1 metre, because those tides create vast areas, but they also hatch big cohorts of mosquitoes as well. So when they're less frequent, there's obviously less mosquitoes hatching, but it also impacts on what we're doing in terms of the area that we're treating. So it was a good change to see, because as you can see, the previous 3 years, that tidal activity was very erratic, particularly those tides of 0.9 and above. So it was a nice season of change. However, again, we were still busy. So just moving to the next slide for mosquito-borne disease. As in every year, there are always cases, unfortunately, of Ross River virus. However, it was quite a quiet year in terms of averages, and you can see the long-term average there of 63.
There was a bit of a spike in December there, and that's probably more related to the change of conditions, people spending more time outside, outdoors, doing more outdoor activities. It's difficult to know because then you can see that the following month there was no cases reported. So trying to, I guess, pull out why does these cases fluctuate is quite difficult. But it's, you know, at the end of the day, as long as we're trying to minimise as many cases as we can, that's our objective, and that we do that by managing the mosquito populations. Just slide onto the next slide. So just with the adult surveillance, so we do fortnightly trapping through the majority of the season, and you can see there the blue graph, the blue line there in the graph, that's the winter species of mosquito that we deal with, and that spike in springtime, early October is quite typical, and then once our treatments start to take effect, those populations decline. The red line there, obviously, that species is almost obsolete during the cooler months and doesn't really start to make itself present until the warming months.
I'm sorry, you can't because we record the meetings. We do require. Sorry, we'll bring you a new microphone. We are getting new ones, aren't we? To the Director of Business Services.
Thank you. Sorry, just to carry on from there. So I think I was discussing the Aedes vigilax, which is the red line. So that's the species that's more active through summer. And we, despite the little spike in December there, we managed to keep on top of that species throughout the summer. And then the usual repeat, I guess, prevalence of the Aedes camptorhynchus as we moved into the autumn months, you can see there as well. So in all, we were pretty happy with considering the number of treatments that we had to do during the season. Maintaining those populations at that level is seen as very successful. And then just moving on to the last slide there for the season that we're currently in. So we had our budget approved of 398,000 there for this year's larvicide procurement. We actually had quite a wet and warm July and August, and that actually promoted mosquito breeding, which is not helpful, but it also limited our ability to do the aerial treatments as well. And then we had a dry, warm September. So those conditions actually supported mosquito breeding through those months. We do continue aerial treatments. However, we are limited by the weather conditions through those months. And noted this sort of probably this time of year through September, it's probably we've seen the highest mosquito populations we've seen probably since 2021 at this time of year. And that's really down to those conditions and our restricted ability to do those aerial treatments. Looking forward, we're looking at a potential reoccurrence of a La Nina season, which we were not happy about, to say the least, but it's again shifted, and this is how quickly these conditions can change. So we're now looking at ENSO neutral, which is neither here nor there in terms of El Nino or La Nina. It's sort of a neutral season where we expect we'll still be relatively busy, and it's been that way for the first few months, but we're hoping that'll start to decline, and we'll see a drop in those cold fronts that are coming through with the tides and promoting the mosquito breeding. Looking forward again, we're looking at sort of potentially a wetter and warmer November to January, so that's not helpful in terms of mosquito breeding. But again, those predictions can change quite quickly. We've had some cases already, which is quite normal. So 2 cases of Ross River virus, and still quite low though compared to what those cases can be normal. So that's an encouraging sign. We've started our community engagement, so we've got a Facebook post happening. We've been out to some events as well. We're starting to communicate that to the community about the risk that's there. Our trapping's underway as well. And we've obviously got 4 treatments underway too now. So we're into the full swing of the season, and hopefully once this spring weather decides to tidy up and we get some summer conditions, things will quieten down for us, and we hopefully see a good season ahead. Thank you.
Scott, thank you to you. Thank you to Brendan and to Peter and to the health team and all those that have been involved in all of this work over a long period of time. Before asking for movement, I think there's just like to remind council that it was in 1896 when the first crossing was being built to connect at Mandurah to Hall's Head, that the Department of Health issued a warning that staff were only allowed to work between the hours of 10 and 2 because the risks that were created by the mosquitoes. And so whilst we live in a period of time where we can manage this through the various methods that Scott has outlined, we must remember that that hasn't always been the case here in the City of Mandurah. Scott, thank you very much. Is there a mover and a seconder? Yeah, moved, Councillor Kearns, seconded, Councillor Burns. Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, through the chair. Firstly, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to Scott and the health team for all your promotion and engagement within the community. I don't think I've been to many events where I haven't seen lots of little hands getting in with the lava and learning what it's all about. I remember when I first had young kids and I used to throw the washing basket outside of the laundry door and then quickly close the door so I wouldn't get eaten by mosquitoes and then wait, spray myself and then go out. And it is such an incredible science, and I am so grateful that you guys do what you do, and the importance of what you do, I don't think it can be undervalued, especially when it comes to having barbecues and wanting to enjoy our beautiful spaces. So thank you so much to your team, and I fully support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on the mover, I would like to note the professionalism of the team, and chaired for a number of years by Executive Manager and Development and Compliance, Mr. Ingle. In my role on the Peel Mozzie Management Group, I've witnessed and can attest to the cooperative spirit and the technical expertise of all the stakeholders in mitigating this health and economical risk within our region, which includes, and not limited to, of course, the state government, the managers of the airfield, and our local government partners. It will be no surprise a significant portion of the last meeting comprised of answering many of my questions, and as a result of that, I'm very pleased to be able to second this motion.
Thank you to the seconder. Any questions? Is there anyone wishing to speak against? I'll put the motion therefore. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item is in relation to the review of local laws. Could I ask for a mover and a seconder for this officer recommendation? Moved Councillor Shoemaker, seconded Councillor Wright. Councillor
Shoemaker. Move the officer's recommendation. This is part and parcel.
Councillor, could you try again, please?
Is that better?
No.
Good. Better? No, not better.
I think you actually have turned into a robot as opposed to blaming the technology.
Well, that's right. I don't have a heart anyway.
We've fixed you. Thank you.
We're fixed. Happy to move the motion that is in front of us. This is basically a requirement of state government that we fulfil all these requirements, and yeah, basically housekeeping of the future. So nothing further to say.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
For you, Mayor, nothing further to add.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Anyone wishing to speak against? There be none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Next item is the statement of commitment to child safety and well-being, and the officer's recommendation is included. I'm asking for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation. Moved Councillor Kearns, seconded Councillor Zolani. Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, Chair. This statement's a really important one, and I'm just firstly want to say thank you to the team for all the work that you've done in this space and for leading the way in this area. I fully support the officer's recommendation. As a school chaplain, I'm deeply passionate about creating a child-safe environment. This plan is vital for ensuring that the City of Mandurah takes deliberate and genuine action to keep our children safe from harm. By aligning with the national principles for child-safe organisations, we commit to fostering a culture where children feel safe, valued, empowered their voices to be raised. The public commitment we're making today reflects our zero tolerance stance towards abuse, neglect, affirming that every child has the right to safety and well-being. I just urge everybody to endorse this recommendation. And once again, I cannot thank you enough for all the work you've done in this space, Jude, and to your team. I really, really appreciate it. And I know that there's still lots of work to be done, but it's exciting that from this space, we're leading the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kearns. Councillor Zolani.
Thank you, Chair. As a full-time councillor and living locally on a daily basis, I believe from the bottom of my heart, children are not just the future leaders of our nation. They are our greatest hope and our most important responsibility. This is something I believe wholeheartedly. That is why I am standing here today, fully supporting the officer's recommendation and passionately advocating for this report. In Mandurah, we have a duty to ensure that every child can grow, thrive, and feel safe. This statement of commitment demonstrates the city's unwavering dedication to protecting the rights and well-being of our youngest citizens. It is not just a policy. It is a promise from every corner of our organization to keep our children safe, whether they are engaging directly with the city or impacted by our actions. We all want to see every child in Mandurah reach their fullest potential. The city plays a vital role in shaping that journey, whether it is through direct services or creating a community where safety and opportunity go hand in hand. The city's zero tolerance stance on abuse, neglect, and mistreatment sends a clear message: we will not compromise when it comes to the safety of our children and young people. Every child in Mandurah deserves to feel safe, to be safe, and to know that they are protected, no matter how they interact with the city. This report is more than just a words on paper. It is a powerful statement of commitment to child safety and well-being. I extend my gratitude to all the officers involved in preparing this report. I urge my colleagues to join me in endorsing this report as outlined in attachment 5.1 and to ensure it is made publicly available on the city's website for all to see. Let's show our community that we stand united in our commitment to the safety and future of Mandurah's children. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Zolani. Are there any amendments? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, through the chair. I wish to move an amendment to the motion as follows: that Council direct the CEO to advocate to the relevant minister and to the WA Local Government Association to expand the eligibility of working with children checks to include provisions for local government elected members who interact with children and young people.
Thank you. Moved, Councillor Smith. I'll second that. Councillor Smith, would you like to speak?
Just firstly, I'd like to also acknowledge, following on beautifully spoken Councillor Zolani and Councillor Kearns, acknowledge the phenomenal work put in by Jude and the team and officers for this comprehensive plan and commitment to child safety and wellbeing. I really appreciate that even though it's not a legislative requirement for local government to have such an organisational plan, that our officers have made this a priority, demonstrating genuine care for the youth of our community. When we consider the principles, as of the national principles for the Child Safe organisation as formulated from the Royal Commission, principle number 1 is child safety and wellbeing are embedded in organisational leadership, governance and culture. So I just feel like we should be promoting like a lead by example from the top down. And I know we've had discussions in workshops about elected members running. Anybody can run for a local council with a minimal vetting process and then be placed in a position of leadership and could potentially abuse that position. So I just feel it's important that we possibly take it to this next step and advocate to the ministers and local government association which is why I urge you to consider this amendment for the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. And in seconding the motion, I'd like to acknowledge you for the thorough investment of time you've spent into considering this. And I know that there have been other councillors too that have given that some real thought. So thank you for that. I just want to clarify in seconding the motion that what this is about is not requesting for a eligibility criteria to be placed on people that want to run for local government. That's not what this is. What this is moving is advocating for those that are working as a councillor with children and young people, acknowledging that there is actually no direct engagement ever of elected members with young people, but acknowledging that from time to time we have a role to play in attending graduation events in schools or junior council or other. That in the instance that a councillor wishes to participate in an event of that kind, that a criteria working with Children's Check would be relevant. I am, like many of you, are involved in school boards. I chair a school board. As a result of my chairing of that board, I am required to have both a working with Children's Check and a national children's clearance. And however, in that role, I do not directly engage with young people, but I'm in a school and therefore it's appropriate, and I can see merit in the advocacy. I want to acknowledge Councillor Smith. What I wouldn't be supporting is a policy position of the City of Mandurah specifically, because that is not a lever that we can pull. This is about an advocacy position to the association and to the minister through the CEO that will hopefully have an impact going forward. And so, Councillor Smith, I think this is the right pathway, and I acknowledge you for bringing this to us in the way that you have. Are there any questions in relation to the amendment? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Could the relevant officer clarify who the relevant minister is, and in particular what level of government is responsible for the working with children certification?
To the Director of Placing.
It's Minister Sanderson who has oversight for this at the moment. And sorry, I missed the second part of your question.
It was in relation to the level of government.
We have state.
Please keep going.
We have state legislation with the Working with Children Screening Act from 2004.
Thank you very much to the Director. I will we'll finish the debate on this motion. I'll then call an adjournment, which will give us an opportunity to reset whatever gremlins have decided to enter the system. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the amendment? There be none. I'll put the amendment. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The amended motion is now the substantive motion. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the motion? There be none. I'll put that. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Congratulations to the Director for her leadership and the staff involved. I'll call a 2-minute adjournment at 6:51. Shoemaker, welcome. I'll reopen the meeting at 6:55, and there's a comment to be made here about being replaced by AI that I will leave on the table. And just to say that the Director of Business Services has assured me that a new audio system is currently under procurement, and so these challenges will not exist into the future. We'll now head back into business. The next item is in relation to the Audit and Risk Committee meeting dates. Is there a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation or an alternative? Yes, Councillor Rogers moved, Councillor Wilkins seconded. Councillor Rogers?
You caught me whilst I was scratching my head. But happy to move the motion, just as long as I'm checking that this is the motion in relation to the council and audit and risk. Yet I have moved the right motion by scratching my head. Doing some just some simple setting of agenda for the upcoming year, so that everyone is aware of when our council meetings and risk and audit meetings are going to be held throughout the year, and giving our staff an opportunity to plan out a very busy calendar of events and work around these dates. Gives some assurity to do all that, and just noting as well that the planning and community engagement committee doesn't get included in this list purely because we utilise it as an ad hoc committee meeting. So it's scratched, and happy to move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I apologise, but I appreciate your contribution. Councillor Wilkins.
I'm not on the Audit and Risk Committee, so these dates are fine with me. Also, great to see they'll be advertised on the city's website to encourage public participation. So I'm happy to second the motion.
Thank you, and I'll remind all councillors that at any time that they wish to attend a committee that they are not on, they are always welcome to attend. Is there any questions in relation to this? Are there any councillors wishing to speak against? There be none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is in relation to the local government elections advocacy position. That's report number 7. Is there a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cumberworth moved. I'll second the motion. Councillor Cumberworth.
I would like to support the officer's recommendation to especially points around a 4-year term split with half the council coming in and out every 2 years. The City of Mandurah has demonstrated effective council, effective governance, and I support the officer's recommendation to recommend that, councils still have some freedom to operate in their best interest.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I don't have anything to add. Are there any questions in relation to the item? Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Chair. With your permission, I've got a list of questions, but I did give some notice to the officer, so I won't be ambushing them too badly, I hope. The questions are, can the relevant officer provide further information as to why the recommendation 5 includes support for an online voting trial? Does the trial exclude the other options of postal and in-person voting if undertaken? What other elements would city officers need to consider if such a trial were undertaken? Who would be the principal lead or manager for the project of such a trial? The department or the city? Would the cost of the trial be borne by the city or the department? Rather than conduct a trial itself, do officers consider it viable to consider trials by other local government areas?
Thank you. I'll direct the question to the Director of Business Services.
Thank you for the questions, Councillor Burns, and through the Chair. The response to the first question. At the Council meeting of the 25th of January 2022, Council adopted a position that supported the proposed trial for online voting with the purpose of increasing participation within the community in local government election processes. Council at the time also noted a number of security and integrity risks associated with electronic voting, and Council recommended that these matters be examined prior to the department considering an electronic voting trial. In relation to or response to your second question, the department released an information sheet for consultation in 2019, which proposed electronic voting as an alternative method to the traditional method of either in-person or postal voting. In circumstances around electronic voting, the voter is required to record their vote digitally rather than making a ballot paper and lodging at the polling booth or via postal. Online voting is a specific type of electronic voting where a vote made digitally is recorded remotely. In response to your question 3, what other elements would city officers need to consider when a trial is undertaken? There is a level of risk with all internet applications and those used for the purpose of electronic voting. These risks would necessitate the continuous application of best practice with respect to security. In addition to security matters, the integrity of the voter registration should be considered, including the casting and scrutiny of votes, and the higher costs in establishing and conducting elections electronically would be additional risks that we'd add. In response to your question 4, would the principal lead or manager for the project such as the trial be the department or the city? Our response is, at present, the Local Government Act does not currently permit electronic voting as a voting method, so legislative amendments would need to occur before a trial would be an option for consideration by the local government. In response to your 5th question around would the cost of the trial be borne by the city or the department, the city would require further information from the department in the event electronic voting is considered. At the moment, the cost of voting is borne, or election process is borne by the local government, but in relation to a trial, it is unknown whether the department would be funding the setup of the trial process for electronic voting. In response to question 6, rather than conduct a trial itself, do officers consider it viable to consider trials by other local governments? Our response is that it's up to other local governments to determine whether a trial of electronic voting would be appropriate for their communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Subsequent question, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Is there an indication of the current government or opposition to move towards online voting, given that reforms regarding voting have already been executed?
Thank you to the Director.
Thank you, through the Chair. The city would need to obtain further advice from the department on their appetite to progress this reform.
Thank you. Councillor Burns.
If I may, Chair, move an amendment.
Yes.
I wish to move an amendment to amend Part 5 of the recommendations and remove the sentence pertaining to their willingness to have a trial online
I'll
of
confirm,
online voting.
Councillor, starting the removal of point 5, starting with noting that
Yes.
it is willing to trial online. The proposal is to remove that section of item 5 whilst maintaining voter accessibility. Council supports postal voting, person voting. Councillor Burns, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Shoemaker. I'll come to the CEO.
Just to advise the minute officer that if you can change the wording for the amended recommendation. So the amendment is to remove in point 5. If you can delete what you've got there under 5. Yep. Remove at point 5. And then if you copy where it starts with noting in the second sentence, so you want to remove that. Is that correct, Councillor Burns?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Burns speaking to the item.
Thank you, Chair. I have major in-principle concerns with online voting, as well as the necessity to specifically include it in this recommendation. Opposition to online voting in local government elections in Western Australia often centres around concerns relating to security, accessibility and public trust. Some of these key reasons for the opposition include cybersecurity risks. Online voting systems are seen as vulnerable to hacking, fraud and data breaches. Lack of transparency. Without physical ballots, verifying election integrity and ensuring accurate vote counts is harder. 3, voter identity verification. Ensuring voters are who they claim to be online is more difficult, increasing the risk of fraud. The digital divide. Not all citizens have access to the internet or necessary technology, which could disenfranchise some voters. Point 5, public trust. Many voters may distrust online systems, fearing their vote could be altered or manipulated. And 6, which the officer alluded to in her response, cost and complexity. Implementing secure online systems can be costly and complicated for local governments. These concerns reflect the ongoing debate between the convenience and election security, and I would like to put election security and public trust at the forefront. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through the chair. I 100% agree with what Councillor Burns just said, and I would, so I won't go rerun over that. What this possibility of going online elections should be driven not at local government level, but at federal and state government levels first. The amount of finance required to establish such a system is well and truly out of the scope of any local government and shouldn't be a burden on the ratepayers. So my firm belief is that no, local governments should not be putting the online voting as something that we're going to do until the feds and state actually do the work and introduce a system which is and will provide safety to this whole community. Until then, I say we stay out of it.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Anyone wishing to speak against? Any questions? I'll put the motion, and this is a reminder to Council, this is an amendment. If the amendment is carried, this will become the substantive. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the substantive motion? Any questions? There be none. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Council, for the debate. Next item is in relation to financial report, and in the first instance, I'd like to invite the Manager for Finance to give a presentation to Council in relation to this month's financials.
Thank you. Through the chair, the finance report for the month of September 24.
I'm going to minimise that little box in the corner. If Councillor Burns happy.
Right, thank you. Just a quick look at the graphs for the operating income and expenditure. Operating income is right on the budget line, and operating expenditure just a little bit below, which is where we would like to see them. So that's looking fantastic. The next slide, the graphs for capital. Capital income is a little bit below, as well as capital expenditure. However, we do tend to see an uptick later on in the year with regards to capital. For our interest saved through our loan offset facility, we have saved $55,000 so far this year. Term deposit interest is attracting rates of up to around 5.2%, although watch that space in the coming months. A quick look at our rates receivable. For September 23, we had 53.1% collected. For September this year, we have 39% collected, and that is due to the due date being a couple of weeks later this year, so falling into October. We should see a catch up next month. And a very similar story when we're looking at properties over 10,000 outstanding and 3 to 10,000 outstanding. We are following the same projection as last year, however, about a month behind. The budget variations, I will take them as read in the report. And for the month of September, we have 4 tenders. And I would just like to finish with the city's procurement team observed the tender evaluation process and is satisfied that the probity and procedural aspects relating to the evaluation were compliant.
Thank you to the Manager for Finance for the presentation. A mover and a seconder for the report. Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Smith. Councillor Rogers. Not scratching your head this time, Councillor.
Not scratching, actually raising my hand. So happy to move the financial report for the month of September 2024, and thank you to the Manager for Financial Services for the presentation this month and every month. Just a few items to note. It was raised at the Audit and Risk Committee, the delivery of the major capital works that's going on the Western Foreshore. Given that there are a number of key events that we're trying to get in after the completion of that, and at that Risk and Audit Committee, it was noted that the work is progressing well and that there are no major risks in relation to that. And just important for this, not necessarily from a budget perspective, but just that we're tracking well and won't need any extra financial outlay at this moment to make sure that we meet those events, which is good. Just another point as well, now that we're speaking about amendments to the Local Government Act, it is a shame that it hasn't been considered by the state government, an amendment to rates exemptions under the new Act. And just noting, you can see in the financial dashboard that we still have $2.24 million of estimated value of rates exemption, which is the same as it has been for every monthly report, but that could be addressed by amendments by the state government to the provisions of the Local Government Act that would reduce that rate exemption potentially for certain organisations and put money into the budget for the organisation. And it's a substantial amount of money. And then just finally noting those the budget variations that are in the recommendation, half of which are grant revenue that we're receiving from organisations, and noting the happiness from me to accept those amendments to the budget, and I recommend to my fellow councillors to approve the officer's recommendation.
Wonderful job. Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Through the chair, thank you, Jared and team. Nothing further. I think Councillor Rogers has ticked all the boxes there. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Can I please, just before asking for any questions or speakers against, note to council that any questions that are in relation to the confidential items will require council to go behind closed doors. So please don't ask those questions, just to indicate that you wish to go behind closed doors, and I will facilitate the process. Are there any questions? Is there anyone? Yes, Councillor Cumberworth.
I have a question regarding the artesian bore construction, and is that a contract for services or is that for a specific bore or number of bores?
Kind of thinking about maybe just picking a director randomly to see if anyone knew the answer, but instead we'll direct it to the Built and Natural Environment Director.
Through the Mayor, I will need to take on notice the specifics around that question. So my apologies.
Maybe we should have gone to the Director of Strategy next time. We want to give it a crack. Thank you, the Director. The question's taken on notice. Any other questions? There be none. Any speakers against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Council, thank you very much for your attendance. Member of the public that stayed standing, thank you very much for being here. Members of staff and members of the media, we appreciate it. I'll close the meeting at 7:15.